Hello everyone, welcome back to Clementine Creative. My name is Clementine and I am back with another video. This week we are continuing last week's painting, last week's character, which was basically Pewdiepie. One of the challenges that we had for this particular character, I'm getting tongue twisters here. One of the ideas we had for this particular character was to implement a real life face. Now, the person I chose to implement was Pewdiepie. I'm pretty sure you know him. Doesn't matter really if you watch or not his channel. He is fairly popular on the internet for various reasons. Now, the reason for me is that I choose him is because I like him. I guess you could also treat it as some sort of a tribute or a fan art. But generally not really. I'm just basically trying to challenge myself to create a real life face, and since I have to do somebody that I like, I decided that Felix would do fine or really well. So there's a couple of ways you can go about putting real life faces on characters. One of the ways is overpainting, which is having a photograph and just painting over it and not having to worry about the facial features as much. To me, that sort of feels like tracing and a little bit like cheating, and I also feel like you don't learn as much as you would if you try to get it on your own. What you see here is me attempting to do it without, just me basically referencing, seeing what is on the picture, but then trying to paint it myself. I personally believe that I did a pretty good job. I'm very satisfied. It sounds egotistic, I know it. My ego is bigger than my... Anyways... as I was saying, I think I did a very good job with his face. I'm sorry, that last line was very nice. I think I did a very good job considering, this being the first time I tried to do a portrait. Now, a lot of times people use this, oh, it was my first time, as an excuse, or oh, it was my first time to get more attention. But, when you paint for a long time, your first time for something might not actually be that bad. So this is why this looks fairly decent, if you ask me. The face does look like him. You can definitely recognize him. And that's really the most important thing. You gotta be careful of the cheekbones, the shape of the chin, the eyes, nose, and mouth. Now, I know you're thinking, oh yeah, well, doesn't that make sense? Well, you would be surprised at how much people forget about these things. Now, the lips. It's very important that you look at the shapes that the lines are making, especially the line between the lips. Now that is the most important line, because that's the line that defines the shape of the lip here. Like basically, it's a very permanent shape, and even when you draw manga characters, that's the mouth for manga characters that don't have any other lips. That's the line that it's basically suggesting, right? The middle line. That line is very important. I remember this in elementary school. My elementary school arts teacher was like, you need to be careful, but because this is one of the things that are very it's a defining feature of the face. Just like cheekbones, nose shape, and eyes. But with eyes, you can just throw in any kind of eyes and it'll still work. For Pewdiepie, I didn't actually, really study what his eyes look like. I generally looked at the shape. It was like round on top and very flat on the bottom, right? His eyes looked very anime-ish, actually, the shape. So it was very easy to draw them. But generally, eye shapes, it doesn't matter as much as like mouth shape or nose shape. These are the things that you really notice because they're, bigger. So those are one of the things you want to be careful of. Anything else here is pretty much not connected to Felix in any way. His body type here is completely different from what he is now. If we look at him now, he's a regular skinny person. Here we can see he has a lot of muscle. I feel like this would be, if he were to bodybuild himself, I feel like this is the point where he would get. But yeah, now basically just designing, and here you can see some proportions going out of place here, but I quickly fixed that arm. So yeah, it was a very fun thing to do. Here I basically tried a different approach into drawing Chainmail, which was just do a pattern and then throw it in and warp it around, and it worked really well and saved a lot of time. You're gonna see me actually copy some of these belts and some of these chainmail or something like that. Remember that when you're painting something, you want to cut down time. if you know of a shortcut and you're already good at doing it the long way. So let's say for me, I have to paint a belt, and if I already have a belt somewhere or a belt buckle, I will simply copy it from somewhere else. But if you're not confident that you know how to paint something, you should probably take the time to paint all of them out individually. But once you get really comfortable with painting in general, you might want to start copying just to cut down time. I decided to move his sword, which was now on his back, actually to his hand, because on the right side it looked very weird and very empty, and the whole handle didn't very much fit the whole armor piece. For me, it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. But the sword is something that is very difficult to modify because it is an existing sword. It does already exist. It is not an original idea. If we remember what I said in the last part, the sword represents the sword from Shadow of the Colossus, which is one of the games Felix played. One of the more, I guess one of the differences that I did is I did add a sort of a metal piece on the blade, which would be normally used to hold the blade in place or just decorational. I think it was used on Viking swords, this technique, but I'm not quite sure. I can't decide if it was the Viking swords or not. But basically, I decided to do that simply because the sword looked very blank. Here you cannot see that just yet because the sword is still on the back, but that will happen soon. I cut away the butterfly and I took away the creature from the journey. Or Journey, I think that's what it's called, the game Journey. I decided to take it away because it was a little bit annoying to have those little creatures around him. Didn't feel like they were part of the design because they didn't really look like anything else on the actual character himself, like on his body or around his waist or something. We had nothing to really link those things. So what I tried to do was to, instead of having the character for the journey, I wanted to put in the scarf from Journey. But it didn't look good. It didn't look good at all. So I decided to just scratch out Journey and Journey and what's the game called? Until Dawn, the butterfly. So those two things are gone. But what we do still have is some, other items. Like from The Last of Us, we still have the firefly pendants. The lantern, I decided to make it lit. That would be the lantern from Amnesia Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which does look a little bit different in the actual game. I decided to change just a bit for the aesthetics, really. The game is a little bit old and it doesn't look quite as good as it could have, and again, it's just a lantern, so really there is not a lot to design for this specific lantern. But now I'm putting in Clementine's hat. If you played the Walking Dead Telltale series, you will know who that is. Clemmy Clue, which would be me, my hat, that's my hat right there. Here I'm throwing in the chainmail. If you can see how I do it, is very simple. Basically take one shape, repeat it, and then simply color it in. Very easy, very easy. But it gets the job done, and that's what you want, speed, and that's a very fast way of drawing chainmail, and I'm pretty sure people do it freehand as well. So here see me try to throw in the scarf from Journey, but didn't look good at all. So yeah, now I'm just adding in all these little features that has like this side fur. A lot of these things on the bottom are now simply connections to the upper part. Now, what you want on your body armor is to have points or elements that basically recycle themselves on the design, or repeat themselves, simply because that way it's part of the same set. So down here you see me do this leg plating. Now the reason why I do this red fur is to connect, it's part of the armor set from the chest plate that he has on right now. And if we look at the belts, we'll be like, oh yeah, the belts are also on the arms, so it's part of the same, you get it. It's part of the same character. You want to make sure it doesn't look like it's two different characters mixed together, right? So when you take them apart, it doesn't look like they fit to the same character. You always want to make sure that you can, connect the pieces. Just throwing in these simple belt buckles, copying, pasting, and now throwing in this leg, and that'll pretty much be it for this video, I believe. Very soon. Just flushing it out a little bit, throwing in the shadow, and that'll be about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Now you know my attempt at putting in a real life face of a real life person in a video game character. Is it possible? Yes. Possible in different styles, doesn't have to be realistic, as long as you get the basic features in, which would be the lips, the mouth, the lips, the mouth, you know, the mouth and the eyes and the nose and the chin shape and whatnot. So again, hope you enjoyed this video, hope you enjoyed the character, and I guess I'll be back with another one next week. Alright, bye.
Everything changes.
I went into cleaning spree with my computer and I accidentally deleted the file, which really messed up, and I was like,